Welcome everybody to the Ridgecrest Town Hall tonight. So this meeting is now started. So what I'd like to do is first introduce everybody that's on our panel tonight. To our left here we have Ridgecrest City Mayor Peggy Breeden. We have our City Clerk Rika Charlon, our City Manager Mr. Strand, CEO of Ridgecrest Regional Hospital Mr. Jim Suver, and our Chief of Police of Ridgecrest Police Department, Chad McLaughlin. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. So what I'd like to do at this moment is just kind of give a brief introduction of the format tonight and what it is that we're here for. So this is a town hall. First and foremost, I want to get the point across that we're not here tonight to make any changes or go against the county or the state and following the guidelines that we're currently adhering to in Ridgecrest. Our goal here tonight is to listen to the citizens of Ridgecrest and particularly the business owners of our community. Take in feedback and comments from them on the reopening of businesses and the economy as we're moving through this COVID-19 pandemic. And so it's important that we get this information. This information will then be taken by myself and forwarded to the reopening committee, the county reopening committee, and to be used to benefit the committee and information taken to the Board of County Supervisors and hopefully on up that channel to the state level and to help everybody in making decisions, wise, logical decisions in reopening our economy as we move through this. So that's kind of the format tonight. Once I'm done, we're going to go right into the call-in aspect of it and start talking to the community. There will be 3 callers on queue, and so we have a light system. When we see the green light, we will let the caller know that they're on, and hopefully things will roll pretty smooth. And so I'd like to start by asking the panel, are we ready to go straight into the calls, or did anyone have anything that they would like to say at this moment, or we can do it at closing?
Yeah, Councilman Heyman, I think I'd like to have City Clerk Rika Charlon talk about the number of emails that we've received upon this request, and then just state the number and what we've done with those emails since we've received them. Yes, I think
that'd be outstanding. So if you'd like to do that, please.
Absolutely. So to date, right now, I have received over 150 emails. I have, throughout yesterday and today, been scanning them in and sending them to the committee to read. So everybody's comments have been read via the email. Because we received so many, we are not going to be able to read these tonight. But I want to assure the community that they were sent out to the committee and they have been read and you have been heard. So there was quite a few of them. We have very interested citizens. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to concur to that we have received them and read them, and that those comments will be taken and be part of the information that will be going to the committee and to the county. So, and with that, if we have no other comments at this point, then I think we're ready to start public comment. So
remind them they have 5 minutes.
So we're going to give them 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'll put the timer on.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. So in regards to the comments as they come through, each caller will have 5 minutes of time to get their comments across. So, and I think we are ready.
All those callers at the beginning and now nobody.
Yeah, remember, we do have a 22-second delay.
Now, will that delay be in between each call?
It would be delay from the time you asked for the first caller to call in to when they were actually going to see it on YouTube.
Okay.
Remind them of the phone call-in number.
Well, while we're waiting on our first caller, I will share the number to call into. That number is 760-499-5010. And remember, if you do get a busy signal, to just keep dialing until you do get through.
Can we ask them if there's anybody online? There's one.
It's ringing.
There's one.
One red, one blue.
Okay, caller, you are on.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead and talk.
Oh, wow, I thought I'd call way too late. Hey, this is Greg Ricketts, owner of Grego's Salon in Ridgecrest there.
Welcome, Greg. Greg, go ahead and
Oh, cool. And so I had sent a letter in, and I just wanted to make sure that people understand when it comes to our salon industry. I've been very concerned over the comments of putting us in phase 3 for opening, and that we are, when I went to school, our education was equivalent to 1 year's nurse's training, and we are extensively trained in sanitation and protection of the consumer, and especially when the AIDS epidemic came out, our regulations tightened even closer, and we know very well how to protect the public. And so when it comes to thinking about what kind of businesses may be opening up, and I don't know that our county can do any different than our state does, but I sent that letter to the state as well and to Kevin McCarthy as well, that I believe that we certainly could open up because of the amount of sanitation that we take care of. And if the stricter requirements are needed, then I guess that's okay. But we are bound by the state. We're licensed by the state and trusted by the state to adhere to our laws and regulations governing our industry. So I just wanted to make sure that gets out there, not only to the public, but to the group who's meeting here tonight, that you could maybe carry that on. We have an awful lot of salons in Ridgecrest and a lot of people who are out of work. Not only that, our state has given all kinds of grants to single mothers to acquire cosmetology licenses so they go to work and feed their children. And now they have no other means of income because they're independent contractors. They don't qualify for unemployment and or any of the loans or any of this sort of thing. So anyway, just want to express that and let that be known that you might be able to take it to the powers that be.
Thank you very much, sir. And I can promise you that your comments and this information will be taken to the next step. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Pam Grattan, and I am part owner of Katz Gymnastics. And I know there's a whole lot of small business owners in Ridgecrest, just like us, who aren't going to be open according to Newsom's latest for months. And I don't know how it is that we're all going to survive for those long periods of time. We can't pay our rent. We can't pay our utilities. I can't keep staff. I only got PPP money for 2 months. How are we supposed to survive this? And I know there was some talk about rural areas who had low numbers, possibly being able to loosen and lift some of these restrictions and set our own regulations. Are we considering any of that? I don't know how this economy is not going to crash and how Ridgecrest is going to survive all of this.
And so, do we want to go ahead and try to answer questions that we can address? And so in regards to the rural areas and the low risk, I'm sure this information is the very information that we're looking to garner from businesses. So I'm sure this information is something that the committee is going to want to see and that the county is going to want to see. So, but I can't speak for them, but I can promise you that that specific aspect of your comment is important. I think it will be, it's going to be carried to the next level, so.
Tammy, I'd like to add also that there was a number of letters that went to the governor already talking about the fact that we are not a one print type city, one print type county, that just because it's good for some of the big areas may not be the best way for us to do. So we need to look at it, understanding that we aren't going to make those decisions. Those decisions are being made for us, but we can offer input.
All right, thank you. Well, good luck all. Hopefully this all works out and we can all get back to work soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Snyder. Let me see, I'm getting some problem with, there we go, I got it. This is Carol Schneider. I have two items. Number one, I have been a consumer of commodities now for a while, and I found out this last month that I could not find any commodities available, so I've been scrambling to find food for myself. The other thing is that I have an issue. I heard that the government, the federal and the state government, and maybe the county government have contributed to a program where the restaurants are being encouraged to provide food to go to be delivered to people such as myself. And I understand that you people might be required to pitch in on this also. I don't know what your opinion on this is, but I sure would like some help. Thank you. Oh.
Yes, I'm familiar with that program, and the county's reaching out at this point in time. It is a federal program that will begin here probably the next week or so and last only till May 14th. And it is a program that will allow seniors of a certain age and a certain income bracket to be able to receive at least one meal a day from a local restaurant. And we are looking at that program now with the county. In fact, we were talking about it today. So one of the issues with the program is that the city would have to pay the restaurants up front and then wait for reimbursement over time from FEMA and the state. So we are looking at that program to see how many qualified seniors that we have. Now, if you're at a certain income and age bracket, there is still Meals on Wheels that you may qualify for. However, if you're of a certain income bracket above that cutoff, that's what this program is for. It's for the seniors that are homebound because of COVID-19 that will have a meal delivered to them once a day.
I have been in touch with the people at Meals on Wheels, and they have not been willing to put me on their program unless I go through my doctor.
Why don't we follow up and see? I'll follow up myself personally and see if that is that you have to be recommended by a doctor before you can go to Meals on Wheels. Is that what you're saying they're telling you?
At this point, they are saying it would take so long to get on Meals on Wheels that it might not be worth the effort.
Okay.
Why don't we do this offline? And I'll give whoever my phone number.
Jim is going to answer that, too.
I'm also aware of a local community group that Stephen Birdsall is doing in conjunction with Lana of Peter Fresh, and the hospital has been contributing to that program as well. And I would be happy to get that information to you via the mayor on there as well. And I certainly understand the plight of our seniors, and that's why we have been trying to fund some of these organizations. And Peggy, if there is something on the medical side that we need to do with Meals on Wheels, please do let me know. I will follow through as well.
I will check. Thank you.
Mr. Carroll, can we get your callback number?
Certainly. Offline?
Yes, if you wish to maybe email the city clerk or maybe send your contact information to the email address for this meeting. I believe it is COVID-19 Ridgecrest at ridgecrest-ca.gov.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, caller.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Matthew Rail. I'm the president of the board for the Ridgecrest Cycle Park, which is the MX track here behind the fairgrounds. One of the biggest issues that we're facing right now is that because we're closed down because of COVID-19, we are unable to make revenue. And being that we are such a small outfit, we rely on that revenue to pay for fuel costs, to pay for the upkeep of the track, to pay for our insurance premiums at the end of the year. Now, we've already gone through half the year, and we've paid out approximately $10,000 to insurance that we aren't currently using. And that's a big problem for us. The other problem in this is that a lot of the small businesses around town do support our track. And if this goes on much longer, I'm afraid that a lot of these businesses aren't going to have the collateral to be able to support or to be able to donate to our track. A lot of other tracks around California have been opening back up because they are able to implement a lot of social distancing guidelines, only allowing riders at the track, only allowing one parent per child or per minor. And so places like Cal City, which was closed down recently, they're opening back up this weekend. Places like Glen Helen and San Bernardino, Paris, Cahuilla Creek, those are all motocross tracks that are opening back up. So we've been getting a lot of questions as to when we're going to be able to. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Mr. Rael, have you been in touch with Chip Holloway at the fairgrounds?
Yes, I absolutely have. He doesn't have any heartburn with us opening back up, but of course, I was in touch with the Kern Public Health Department. They basically said that if we opened up, that we would be fine. So that's been our biggest sticking point.
Well, what we can do is reach out to public health again and ensure that that's the proper direction.
Okay.
Yeah, can you also send an email to COVID-19 Ridgecrest?
Absolutely.
At Ridgecrest with your information, and we'll get you an answer from Kern Health.
And
all right, sounds good. Thank you.
one of the things, if you're still on, one of the things I would recommend doing too is getting a hold of your insurance company, and because you cannot utilize the track, if there's any way that they can prorate that policy. I mean, I've heard through the grapevine that some insurance companies were offering refunds for various, payouts because of lack of drivers out on the roads, and their revenues are different. So I think it might be worthwhile to get a hold of them and see if there is a possibility that because of extenuating circumstances with this virus that you might be able to get it prorated or some kind of help from them. But I would sure check into it.
Absolutely. I believe Chip has reached out to the insurance company since we do fall under his insurance.
Okay.
And I have yet to hear a response from them.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, caller, you're on.
Hi, my name is Cindy Parsons. I'm the owner of the flower shop and the Hallmark Gold Crown on Ridgecrest Boulevard. And we've been closed since the governor said that we were non-essential. So last month we closed, and I agree with all that's going on. I'm just wondering why my flower shop would not be able to open since grocery stores, Walmart, and all of them are able to sell flowers. Albertsons even delivers flowers, and I know I'm losing business to them. I was recently told that I could do phone orders and website orders. So I was hoping, on Mother's Day is coming up next week, which would be a great time to open so I can recoup some of my money. I've not been able to collect any unemployment yet or get anything from the Small Business Association or anything like that.
Cindy, I did talk to somebody in the county government, and I'll tell you offline that there was a possibility of you being able to do the delivery through the stop at your store type thing where people could pick up without going in, or that you could deliver to them. But coming into your store, that was the question, and they encouraged me to tell you today, which is I was going to call them because there are options for that because it's being done in other areas.
Right. Okay, perfect. So I will go ahead and follow up on that then.
Can you also send us an email with your request, and we'll get back with you with an answer?
Yes, I will. I did send one. So, and just one other quick question. My daughter, who has 2 small children, are the daycares going to be opening up?
I know of one daycare center that's opening up on May 4th for essential employees only.
Okay. Yeah, I think her youngest one will be in a daycare, but her first grader is not. She's works for a dental office, so she's got to figure out what to do with him. So, okay. I think that will be it then.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Caller, you're on.
Yeah, so my question is, my name is Everett Scott. I'm a Ridgecrest resident, and I was looking online to see Governor Newsom's, are we going by his 4 stages of opening up, the rest of, like social restaurants, like them seating in our restaurant? When is there a date to where we can start letting people, dine in and get the businesses open, or are we going by Governor Newsom's stage 4 plan?
Well, from what I can gather on the 4-stage plan that Governor Newsom just released, there's not a lot of real specific dates and times for starting these different phases. So I don't think we, at this point, have a date or a time. If anyone has heard differently, I reviewed it today before coming, and I did not see anything that was specific. So although that's kind of the format that had just been laid out, we don't have anything further than that to go off of.
Okay. This is just killing her. I hate to see it. I work at a local restaurant here, and I don't know how much longer she can keep just doing the delivery and the takeout.
We understand that is a big concern for the businesses as a whole right now, and so it's rather heartbreaking news. So, but yeah. I can promise you we're going to forward this information and try to get some changes and hope for some reopening and get things moving.
Because my concern also is that we're not a rural area. I mean, we're a rural area. We're not LA, and I think we're still holding strong with 3-4 cases as far as the high desert Ridgecrest.
Yeah, I think 5 has been the current number, but which is still quite low in the big picture of counties.
Correct. So I'm just thinking we shouldn't be treated as like LA or New York or, and such like that. There's just no call for it. Because, most of us aren't like furloughed employees or work on base, This is really impacting us, and the unemployment, sites that are crashing, you can't even get on, you can't call. I mean, by all means.
Well, I'm gonna pass to Mr. Suver on answering some of your question too, so just hang on just a second.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott. We actually had a 6 positive today. We have 3 pending results. The turnaround is now still around 2 days for that. So we still have had a relatively small amount out of a total of 223 tests that the hospital has done. So I certainly appreciate your concerns, sir, but we are at 6 now, with the potential for 3 more. I think our risk is the Lancaster-Palmdale areas had certainly a higher amount of false positives, positive tests. And even though they're certainly larger areas, to the degree that they would have an interaction up here, it could cause us to have an increase in positives. And that's what everyone is trying to weigh, and why social distancing has been so important. But I do want to add somewhere in here that I feel for our businesses as well, and for anyone that is listening. I mean, the hospital is also, our volume and revenue is down by about 80%. And many hospitals have started laying off people, so it is a major problem, and no one would like to open actually sooner than I would personally, for the good of our community, our businesses, and our hospital. And I temper that comment with being safe and avoiding some of the surges that some of the areas have had unexpectedly.
Jim, can I ask a question? We went with 4 for so very long, and we've had 2 increases and can you address that for some of the people I know that were asking that question?
Sure. I think I need to differentiate between community acquired versus people that have gone outside of the area into an area that's been more impacted than we are, Mayor Breeden. And so for community acquired, by that I mean, I walked by Ron and I was positive, and I give it to Ron. Neither of us have traveled anywhere affected. But the majority of the 6 positives we have are frankly people that traveled out of our area to an area that was high impacted, and then they brought the virus back with them. And of course, this is why one of the things in Newsom's plan is we need to have more people to track people that have been positive, knowing who they have contacted with, et cetera, to make sure that we can quarantine people as necessary. But again, the majority of positive cases that I know of in the community are people that have traveled.
Thank you.
So along that note with the cases, when I was reading today, in your direct dealings with the state, is there a trend downward on number of cases, active cases, and deaths as a whole? I was pulling up information on it today, and that's what I was seeing, and so I'm just curious as to if that's the consensus out in the healthcare.
Based on the data, I would concur with you, Scott, that we are seeing a decrease. I particularly look at some of the data in the areas around us that I can get, and they are also showing a decrease in there. I think, and for a future discussion, we do have to be very careful about a second surge because epidemiologically that can certainly happen. But yes, right now it is a downward trend, and that's good.
But not long enough period that at least from my own opinion or perspective, not enough of it or long enough period of it to be facing any,
Correct, and we are still suffering, and this is also in Newsom's plan, with a significant lack of testing. And although the state is now funding a number of test centers in each county, the amount of people that need to be tested to really make a safe conclusion, we are woefully short. And again, I shared with you, we've done 223 tests. And granted, these are only the tests that we've done at the hospital, but I assuming they were doing the majority of them. And that's where we have to be very careful about very, very small sample sizes. And that's why I'm so looking forward in the future when we are able to do the serology testing, which the hospital is planning to do at least by the end of May, assuming that there's no other interruptions. There was an article in CNN today that confirmed what we pretty much already knew. The priority for the federal government is to give commercial labs first dibs on equipment and the supplies necessary to run the test. So it does take some time before it goes down to community hospitals. Our board of directors has given us hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy new equipment, but again, without the necessary reagents or supplies to allow the test to be run, we can't do anything yet. And so I still think we're looking towards the end of May to do any significant testing. There's also the fact that really testing the community is really a public health function and far, far beyond the capacity, just in terms of lab equipment, of any community hospital to do.
And on the serology testing, that's different than the antibody testing, or are you referring to?
I'm sorry, I'm always guilty of hospital jargon. The one and the same. The one and the same.
Yes. And I assume so, but I just wanted to make clear that it was, but okay. I think we're ready for next call. Okay, caller, you're on.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead and speak. You're on.
Hi, my name is Katie. I'm a local dog groomer here in Ridgecrest. I've been grooming for almost 6 years now, and I have 2 small kids, and I have not been able to get unemployment, and the stimulus check that we received only goes so far when supporting kids. I was curious if we are able to reopen. Everything I've read on the website is extremely unclear. It just says if we're obeying social distancing, recommending for the sanitation, and even while we were obeying those, we still got shut down. So I'm very confused as to if I can even reopen our shop and as to why we got shut down if your website says we would be able to remain open with the social distancing and the sanitation.
Did the health department shut you down?
Ridgecrest Code Enforcement came in and told us to close our doors.
Okay, thank you.
So could we maybe...
Yeah, we get a hold of public health and just ensure that that was the right decision.
Did you follow that, Katie? Mr. Strand's response to that we're going to follow through or follow up on that and make a determination if that was the right decision?
Okay. Also, I keep hearing that other grooming shops in town are opening, and because we are deemed essential, is that correct?
Put your.
I'm sorry?
That's fine. I'll contact Public Health tomorrow and run this by them. I'm not sure where they stand now since CDC said that the first canine contracted COVID-19. They released it, I believe, yesterday. So I'm not sure they're recommending social distancing for animals now. So let me contact them, and if you could email the COVID-19 address and put your information on there, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
I can send you another email. I've already sent one email with my questions, but
Okay,
I can send another with my information.
Then we already have it. Then I'll just get it from there.
Okay, and so is that a no? Grooming shops are not considered essential at this time?
I will contact them first thing in the morning, so I will give you a call in the morning.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Yes. Caller, you're on.
This is Chris Gray, Indian Wells Valley Youth Baseball President.
Hello, Chris. Go ahead.
So I'm under the impression that city parks aren't closed, and we've obviously put our baseball season on hold due to the COVID-19 situation. Is there rules or, keeping us from starting our season, getting these kids out of the house and doing something productive?
Well, currently the parks are closed for baseball team sport. Now, I don't think we have a problem if you have a father and son go out and play catch or to pitch. I don't think that's an issue. But to have a group of kids that are not normally associated with each other congregating is not allowed at this point in time. I mean, we feel for you. I mean, all the kids are locked inside, and as soon as we can get them out and enjoying sports again, I think we're all going to be happy. But I think at this point in time, organized baseball is not allowed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I believe I read in the governor's new 4-phase program that unsupervised or unspectated sports is in one of those phases, and don't quote me because I don't have them in front of me, but like in the second or third phase of his reopening. So it's mentioned in it, and so apparently, but not part of the current environment.
So am I still on?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Chris, as soon as we can, obviously, we run a lot of recreation programs through Parks and Rec, and, we're looking at whether or not we're going to have summer programs this year. I know that Mr. Patton was going to have a phone call with Public Health regarding the reopening of the splash pad and pools and those issues. So we are in contact with Public Health, and as soon as we can, start opening these things up, we absolutely will, because we know how important it is to, the families and especially the children.
Can I talk? You got me?
Yep, you're still on.
So I did reach out to the Parks and Recs coordinator, and he said the complete opposite of you guys, but that is what it is. So I understand you guys are in a situation and your hands are tied-ish, but 5 cases in Ridgecrest. It's been a while since we've had the last case. Walmart's open, grocery stores are open. Everybody's still frequenting these places, and there's no new cases that are popping up. And I feel for the small businesses in town, can't go to restaurants, can't do anything. Schools are closed. We're teaching kids at home and partially working. I know nobody wants to take the big leap and just say we're going to open, and then if somebody gets sick, all of a sudden they're going to point blame. But in our community of the people that we have not seen anything like LA. We haven't seen anything like Bakersfield or in any other city in this state. I don't know what the other rural areas, but so my thought, or I guess what I asked you guys to do is to look outside of what Gavin Newsom is advising, because it's not necessarily the best for our community. We're a very, very small, isolated community. The government is not allowing the base employees to travel until the end of June. So I think we're extremely isolated, and I think if we follow their guidelines, it doesn't necessarily suit us.
Chris, we all understand what you're saying. However, remember, we are bound by what the governor says, tells the counties, tells us, that we can't close or open businesses in this community ourselves. It is the governor's decision, and we follow the county, and the county follows the governor. So it really isn't our choice. If we had our choice, you might see a little bit differently in what we said. We aren't a pick by pattern type community, and that we are a little bit different, but that isn't exactly the rules he's following, and that's the way it is. We have input to him, and that's what Scott is doing for us, and that's why we're doing this today, so we can say, look, we had 140, almost 150 emails and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses on Facebook and these. And so if we could make that choice ourselves, it might be different, but it isn't our choice.
And I'd like to add too, Chris, that we definitely, I don't mean this, this comment gets used a lot, but feel your pain and frustration, because there's 3 of us, as Mr. Suver had mentioned earlier with the hospital and their business, but there's 2 other business owners on this panel that have been hit pretty hard with this economy and the shutdown and decrease in our business. So we have a personal stake in this too, and actually feel the very frustrations that we're hearing tonight coming in from everybody. So trust me, you are being heard. So, but like the mayor said, we and the manager and the chief, we have guidelines and protocols that we are currently held to, and so that's what we're adhering to right now. So thank you.
Okay, couldn't agree more, and I appreciate what you guys do. And then I guess I was just trying to understand the rules we have to follow. I mean, democracy at its finest. You know, we do have a community here, and we vote to elect the people representing us, and we appreciate what you do for us. And I hope we can recover from this. Obviously, it's trying times for a lot of small businesses. We've seen some close already, and it's unfortunate. But I just hope you guys do everything in your power to push back against what big cities are doing. I mean, I see on the news Huntington Beach or Newport Beach is open, and there's 100,000 people sitting on the beach, and yet we're not allowed to go to our restaurants here. And it's kind of disgusting to me, I guess, in the sense that they're allowed to do what they want to, but we can't do what we want to, which if we're following the governor's orders, why are beaches and public places open in other places but not here? So I leave you with that, and I put my faith, and everybody in this town puts our faith in you to help us get through these times. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next call. Okay, caller, you're on.
Hi, how's it going? My name's Dave. I voted for Peggy Ann Scott. Just want to let you guys know I'm a local, have been for the better part of 20 years. I vote, I pay taxes, I do all that. And I've heard a lot tonight about how we can't do anything about what the governor says. And I just want to know, what can we do about enforcement? Because oftentimes, especially people like our benevolent Governor Gavin Newsom, who doesn't want to follow a certain federal guideline, he just doesn't follow it. He disobeys it with ethics and morality in his mind, and he says, well, we're going to simply disobey this, or we're not going to enforce this rule or that rule because it's not morally right by what our voters have told us is not morally right. You people sitting on that council right now have been told, and you know in your hearts, that the things that you are saying, that's the end of the story. There's nothing we can do about it. You know it's morally wrong. You are making us this tiny town in the desert that has no constituency to a Democrat governor in Sacramento, doesn't care about us, came here for 15 minutes when we had an earthquake, and that's it. That's the last thing, and now we're just going to kowtow to what he is. Why don't we just say, okay, hey, this is what the governor says, and we are not going to, it says, however, due to manpower and stuff, we're not going to be able to enforce this stuff. So, but this is what the governor says, and you guys should do this. And then after that, let Americans be Americans. Let Americans be free. Let Americans do what they're going to do. If people want to quarantine in their houses, let them hide in their houses. Let them hide in their closets. Let them do what they want to. But if people want to be out, let them go out. I know you guys can't do anything about the camping situations up at the lake, or you can't do anything about anything else, but this town, this is our town. We voted for you guys to protect us and our interests. So sure, yes, the governor has said what he has said. But why can't you guys say, yep, the governor sure has, but right now we just don't have the resources to go around and arrest, fine, close down everybody who wants to, feed their families because they got small businesses in there. It's pathetic. It's sad. And I wish you guys would step up and be the council people and mayor and everything else that we voted you guys to be. Why can't we just say, we know this is wrong, and yes, these are the rules. However, we're not going to enforce rules that we believe are morally incorrect, especially for our situation.
Scott, I can answer that question for you quite simply. The council doesn't enforce the law. We actually have a chief of police that enforces the law that is independent from the council. The governor has set down the guidelines for us and how we're going to work our way through COVID-19 pandemic. We also have a county public health department that has the authority to place restrictions within our community because we are within Kern County. We're on the phone with Kern County Public Health Monday through Friday. we are assisting them in helping them follow the orders that they've placed down. And actually, the council is still limited on exactly how, they can intervene on this. It's primarily a public safety issue at this point in time. So I know the council may have feelings on it, but we still have certain rules that we have to follow. And I think one of the premises of this meeting is to be able to provide information back to those who are setting these policies about how you specifically feel. And then hopefully, as we work our way through this, when the time is right, we'll start opening in a manner in which that it's safe for everybody. Because although you feel one way, there are people on the other end of the spectrum that feel, that we should be locked down even more, that people shouldn't be going to the store. So we are trying to very gently, work our way through this thing, because we understand that we have people that have passionate feelings on both ends of the spectrum of this thing. And so we're just doing the best we can at this point in time.
Well, look, Jeb, I know you got to say that, and I know, but we got 5 cases here. We've had 5 cases. It's about ready to get really, really, really hot. The virus doesn't last as long in the hotness, and we have to do what we all have to quarantine in place just because one person feels differently than the rest of us do. I thought this is a democracy. I thought we all get to vote. By the way, how is the chief of police decided? Doesn't the council decide who the chief of police is? Or is that put to a vote too?
Actually, it's the city manager that hires and fires the chief of police, but the government code's pretty clear that the chief is independent for a whole lot of reasons. But anyway, I really understand. I understand your feelings, and like I said, we're doing the best we can to work our way through this. We'll know here probably after a while whether or not this virus is affected by the heat or not. And I'll go back to what the governor said. He's trying to make decisions based upon facts, not emotions. And I understand that's a very difficult thing.
I don't believe that for 1 minute, sir. I believe that the governor is making decisions, and every governor is making decisions on who can fatten their wallets. And so far, I found out that Home Depot and Walmart can fatten their wallets better than small-town businesses can. So when this is all over, maybe you guys might want to think about where this city is going to be when the businesses can't get back open. Because that is serious. That's public health. What is the city going to look like when there isn't anything here? There was barely anything here before this started. We were just starting to getting some nice things going on here. And I've been here for 20 years.
Well, Dave,
so what's going to happen? What's going to happen when it all closes down and then there's nothing left and we're right back to where we were in the 1980s?
Dave, listen, your point's well taken, and I don't mean to be rudely cutting you off, but I do have to cut you short. We have several calls and waiting in the queue here. So
thank you for your service, you guys.
Listen,
and I know you guys want to make a good decision. I think you guys should explore avenues to try and make a better decision.
That's what we're doing.
Thank you for your participation, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Good night.
It is kind of hard when you're a small business, as you and I are, and Jim, a larger business, but still being impacted by this. And it is very difficult to look at that and say, I look at the businesses in our community. I don't see anybody on yet. When I look at the businesses in our community, and most of them are so impacted that the decision is coming to the point, can I reopen? Should I reopen? Especially some of the businesses that are open, that are owned by older people who are thinking, I'm going to stay here another 5 years, and find out that if they don't open soon, they're not going to be able to stay here 5 years. And how do you start over at 70? And it is a difficult decision on many, many businesses. And my heart bleeds for them as a small business, as you as a small business. And Jim, I know that you're severely impacted as a larger business. And so nobody is wishing this on any business. And it is what it is. And the laws we have to follow are the laws. And Jed isn't making up the rules about which ones he follows. He is told, this is the law. This is what you have to do. And Jed, you don't have that choice, do you? I mean, I know the answer to that. You're going to say, oh yeah, I can decide which ones I want to enforce. No, it is the law. Do we like it? Is it perfect? No, but that's the way it is. And we're going to make our feelings known, our community's feelings known to the county, and Scott, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, and
so
I can
Scott
assure
do that.
you, we have a vested interest in this, and I feel proud and I'm really glad to see this step being taken, and for all of us to be sitting here being a part of it. And it may be the first step, but it is a step, and it is in the right direction. And we're going to sure do everything in our power to make this better for this community. Yeah.
I applaud our Board of Supervisors, and in particular our own supervisor, Mick Gleason, for appointing Scott to represent this side of the district and appointing the president of the Kernville Chamber of Commerce to represent the other side of the 1st District. And they are doing that because they recognize that this is the best way to get total community support by input. So if you got something to say besides here, call Scott on his home phone and
oh, you bet. I'm happy to do any part I can. This is all new from the recently being selected to be on this reopening committee. I haven't met with the committee yet, or the Board of Supervisors. That's all coming down the pike. But this information, and I'd like to also state that while the main focus of this meeting and town hall is to get input from the community and from the businesses to take it to the next level, I think it's pretty safe to say that this information was also going to be shared at the city council meeting, and we're going to be discussing this again and more decisions on some of these issues that we were seeing before us tonight, that being brought up to the community, to the panel tonight, that we will probably be revisiting these again in the very near future, and we want to follow through on it and just keep working through this. And but it is a dynamic situation right now. Things are moving, they're changing, and I think it's going to continue to be like that for a while. But we're glad to do our part. So
yeah. I can say that we do have we have phone calls with county emergency operations services and county public health Monday through Friday, and these issues are brought up during these phone calls about what the effects in our community, the effects of small business, and pushing of can we reopen and can we legally reopen. I know that Chief McLaughlin is in touch with his chiefs group, and so we are asking these questions every week. We are tracking how this virus is within our community, within our county, and we're doing the best we can to try and, when you talk about affecting small businesses, it's affecting the city also. It's affecting our ability to be able to provide critical services to the community. So I believe we're all concerned about it, and I think there's a balance between protecting lives and reopening and getting back to normal. Exactly. And I think that's what the premise of this meeting is to hopefully get there.
So I'd like to move back to the callers. We have a caller on in the queue now. So, caller, you're on.
Hi, yes. I am going to be one of those that I believe it was Mr. Heyman had said, I'm the opposite end of the spectrum where everyone keeps saying, yes, we only have 5. Why are we being penalized? But I think there's only 5 because we have done a damn good job of keeping everyone inside and obeying and sticking to the rules. I feel, and I've heard other people say the same thing, because Ridgecrest is known for a lot of contractors that come in, and obviously we have the base that a lot of people travel. If we was to just go and turn around and open up right away and have all the contractors come back in and start going back to work like they were, again, they're traveling back and forth, let's say if it's from LA or from, even if they're flying from different places on the weekend because they stay up here long periods of time. And same thing with the base, they're going to open it back up. There we go again. There's the travel back and forth. So I think it was on Facebook I read not too long ago where it said, I would rather stay in quarantine for the whole summer and to me a couple more weeks than to go bury another family. It's only going to be a little bit longer. And for some of us that are either sick or have a low immune system, it means a lot to just take that extra one more week before we go opening back up right away. And I know I'm upsetting some people, but I'm just saying think about it before we go rushing back in. And I think everyone should be on the same page.
Well, thank you very much for your input. And, I think it's pretty safe to say that we all want to take in information and base decisions in a logical, responsible, and safe manner. And I don't think anybody wants to see, any risk put out to anyone in the community. So that's not what we're wanting to do. But we do appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, next call. Okay, caller, you're on.
Okay, next call.
Yes, good evening.
Go ahead.
Okay, caller, you're on. Okay, next call.
Yes, good evening.
She needs to turn her TV
Yes, good evening.
If you're on
my name
the
is
TV.
My name is Melissa, and yes, good evening. Yes, good evening.
You have your TV on and it's coming through.
My name is Melissa, and
Martha, can you hear me? Martha?
Melissa.
Yes, I can hear you.
Please turn off your TV or turn it down.
Yes, it is.
Okay, try again. Go ahead, caller.
Good evening, City Council.
Yep, we can hear you good now.
Okay, my name is Melissa, and my husband and I own Unum Jiu-Jitsu here in town. And I just want to thank you guys for the work that you guys are doing to provide a platform for our voices to be heard first and foremost. I don't think I'm going to not say anything that you guys haven't heard, but like many businesses, we're struggling just like everybody else here in town. We're currently operating on about a quarter of our income that we normally bring in per month, and that's only by our gracious members coming forward and paying their memberships just willingly. It's not something that they have to do. They've just come to us and said, in order to keep the doors open, we're willing to pay our memberships. So we're very, very grateful for that. But I just hope that I would be a voice for our members and some of the feedback that we've got from them with their concerns, frustration that they've had with us not being able to open back up. Their concern as well is, like you guys have heard from many people that I've heard call in, is that they see, the big businesses in town open up, Home Depot and Walmart with crowds of people flooding in every single day. And we really haven't had an uptick in cases. And, that's what they keep saying to us. It's disheartening to see the big companies that we know are going to survive still operating and still keeping their doors open whenever us small businesses, are pretty much risking everything just to keep our doors open. So again, I'm not going to say anything you guys haven't already heard. Everybody's pretty much already said it. But we've applied for the SBA loan back late March, and we haven't heard anything back. So, these are just things that we're struggling through and trying to figure out, just like everybody else as a small business owner, to try to just make, ends meet at the end of the day. So again, I'm not going to say anything you guys haven't heard, but we just wanted to get on and just let you guys know, we're a small business in town and we're struggling just like everybody else. And we would just hope that you guys would lead with the facts and take it up the chain and just help us, be the voice for Ridgecrest to let Governor Newsom know that because we are a rural city that, things may be a little bit different here for us.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And I appreciate your participation tonight. And like I've said time and again tonight, this information will get forwarded up the chain. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next caller.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, go ahead, caller. Caller, are you on?
I'm on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is another Dave. Maybe you recognize my voice.
Yes, Mr. Matthews, we recognize you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little unhappy about the way this thing is going. First of all, I got a question. The instructions that came with the email or the notice for this meeting was that there would be call-in, and then there was also going to be emails that were going to be read. Are those emails still going to be read or not?
The emails will not be read tonight. We made a decision that there was an overwhelmingly large number of emails that came in.
Gee, I wonder why.
And so
Well, therefore, some of my points were in the email, but let me just reiterate some of them. First of all, I wanted to point out that I hope there are county residents participating in this as well, because this decision about reopening is not just affecting city residents, it's also affecting county residents. The other thing is that I have said from day one that this whole shutdown is unconstitutional, but that doesn't seem to bother anybody anymore. And, the dictators are there, and they're making the decisions, and we're letting them. That's the thing that really frightens the Jesus out of me. But my suggestion is that we go ahead and open up the city with the understanding, or the businesses, all the churches and other groups that have been shut down by this whole thing. Open them up, let them meet with the provisions that they continue the CDC guidelines, and go for 2 weeks and see how things are going, and then revisit, see what modifications, if any, we need to make, and go from there. But I have also been trying to file a lawsuit through a non gratis law firm, and I'm having trouble doing that because maybe they're busy or maybe they don't agree with my position. But this is absolutely ridiculous. We don't have to go through all of this stuff. This call-in, this virtual stuff kind of works. This is one of the better ones, and some of the other ones just don't have it because I can't get the right links. In fact, I got in late on this one because I followed the links that were in the email and found out that I was watching the one from March, and so I didn't know what happened at the beginning of this one. So there's my comments.
Well, thank you, Dave. We appreciate it greatly, and I'm glad you got on the current one tonight. So thank you for your input.
Well, just tell it, well, never mind. Yeah, the governor has way overstepped his authority as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people as well. And by the way, I don't get a flu shot. I haven't since the first swine flu back in the 80s, because every time I get a flu shot, I get the flu. So I'm not waiting around for another flu shot to take on this thing either.
Dave, I can honestly say they don't make them like you anymore.
Well, sometimes I think I have to agree with you, but I had a discussion with my grandson, and this past weekend, but I think he's got sense enough to see through some of it.
Okay, we're going to have to cut you short there, Dave, because we got the
Okay.
next caller coming in. So thank you, sir.
All right, bye.
Ready. Caller, you're on.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Dion, and I just had a quick question, and please forgive me if you've already answered this and I somehow missed it. I've heard a lot of callers mention the fact that we certainly have a very different demographic when it comes to the amount of positive cases versus other towns. That being said, I know that I just heard recently that there were about 6, I think it was counties or districts that were petitioning the governor to take a look at their cases individually rather than as a whole because they're experiencing the same situation and hoping maybe to have some less restrictions as far as being able to phase back into a safe way of resuming business. So I was wondering if part of what you guys are doing is in an effort to maybe do the same thing. And Mr. Heyman, I heard you earlier mention to somebody that part of your point in collecting this information is to make decisions, taking it to the next level. Can you please clarify what you meant by that?
Sure. There's the committee, the reopening committee. This information will go to that committee, and then having not met with them yet, my understanding would be that then the Board of Supervisors would be kind of next up that chain of command, and then from there getting the message on up to the state level. So does that clarify your answer?
It does. And so I guess on a next level basis, my question again then is listening to the gentleman who was passionate, I guess you could say, about how our city council responds to this would be, is there any possibility of you gathering this information and being able to take it to the governor for him to look at us as a singular town rather than being lumped in under Kern County as a whole?
That's a good question, and I think this information will be looked at, and I would hope so. There's a lot of let's just say individual issues going on within the big picture when it comes to densities, to rurals, to low risk areas, counties, like you mentioned, the 6 counties up north that are looking to try to, gather, input and be able to do things in a way that benefits them and is at low risk to others. I've sat and looked at counties and studied the counties as a whole through the whole state. You can look at some counties. There's 20 counties that have 0 deaths. There's 17 more counties that we're one of that has 5 or less deaths. If you take those populations and I looked up every population of every county and you put that together, you got 37 counties in California with 5,100,000 and something thousand people with 38 deaths. And if you factor those numbers, in my book, that could be construed as low risk. Should that be something considered by the counties supervisors or the committee? I would hope so. So the information that you're presenting, the information that we are taking in there's a lot of it. It all has its point and perspective and where it may fall into this big picture, and I hope that it can be utilized by the county, the Board of Supervisors, the committee, and our governor up in the top end of it to make reasonable, logical, safe, responsible decisions to get our economy back up and running and not hurt anybody. So that in a nutshell, I hope I answered your question, but I'll quit right there.
It does. I know that there's a lot of factors involved. It was just encouraging to see that some of the other rural areas were, rather than taking the stand of we're going to do what we're going to do, actually somewhat asking permission. So, wanting to be compliant with our authority and submit to authority is some of the, I know an important factor. I absolutely appreciate what all of you are doing for our town. Another question really quick, though, because I do understand that a lot of our smaller local businesses are struggling. What advice would you give our residents of Ridgecrest that we can do to help support those local businesses somehow, some way, to help give them hope and keep them going during this time, whether financially or even maybe just as an encouragement?
Boy, that's a good question. Go ahead, Jed.
I've seen some people do. Hi, Dion. I think that one good way that I've seen some people start doing was buying gift certificates. I've seen some businesses that are still open buying gift certificates, i.e. the hospital, buying gift certificates and offering them as to their employees or others as a reward or other avenue to help support those other businesses. So those are some ways that I think we could help those other businesses out too.
Yeah, and for our restaurants to continue to, frequent them by ordering out, ordering pickup. The more we support them, the more we can keep them going until we can reopen, the better. Because even when we reopen, there's going to be a new reality for our restaurants for a period of time. You may see some restaurants that may be restructured differently with, barriers. You may have some that have to reduce their number of occupancy considerably. So you're going to see businesses, even as we reopen, suffer. So the best thing we can do is, try to frequent them as much as you possibly can. Go to a variety of businesses and make a point of it. A significant number of our people that are working in our community have not lost a paycheck. And I know that the complaints in the past were is we don't have enough restaurants in town, enough diversity. Well, if we don't support the ones we have currently, you're going to have less diversity, less restaurants when we're through this thing. So we just need to keep that in mind. And like I said, I agree with Jed. There are some places out there that are offering the ability for you to buy gift cards. That puts money in their pocket. Then they can try and provide that service down the road when they're back reopened again. So that'd be my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. I concur.
Okay. Thank you so much to all of you. Again, I know you've got other callers. Just know that we are all praying for you guys. We appreciate everything that you do, and we'll get through this together.
Thank you very much, Deanna. Okay, so next caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, hi, my name's Chris Patterson. I'm the owner of Vintage Havana Cigar Lounge here in town. And I've been closed since day one, following the rules, doing everything you're supposed to do. I understand that, there's steps that we have to take. I guess my question is do you know if we can even do curbside pickup on certain products? I know we can't allow people to come in and smoke in the lounge, but there's certain other places that are doing curbside pickup, even delivery, and every time I've called Kern County Health, they told me, no, I can't do anything. I try to explain to them what I'm wanting to do, and they say it's not allowed. But you go down to Bakersfield, I have friends that own lounges down there, and they haven't closed since day one. They're still up and running. They have people in smoking, and they're not being harassed. But we're out here in the middle of nowhere, and they're coming and focusing on us. Now, I get there's steps that we have to take, and I'm all about, customer safety. I wouldn't want to put anybody in risk of anything. But at the end of the day, too, is there's a point where we have to pay the bills, because I'm actually even considering shutting down because I just don't have the revenue coming in. Also, this town is based off family-owned businesses. We don't have a lot of franchises here that are going to constantly recover from this. Walmart will recover, Home Depot will recover, but places that are family-owned that support this town, they're not recovering. They're once they close the doors, they're done, and there's no guarantee of who's going to come in and take their place. So to me, that's a big concern. I already know a few businesses that have closed down and some that are going to close down and not even reopen. So it's a big concern for a lot of us citizens here in Ridgecrest. I know you guys are doing what you guys can, but maybe take in consideration when you talk to these people that, hey, we're not a big city. I came from a big city. I get it. They can recover from this. But a small town here in the middle of nowhere, we're not going to recover from that. So there's a big concern there. So I guess what I wanted to know is if I could do curbside pickup to keep my business afloat. If that's something you can maybe find out some information. I also sent you guys a letter, an email, and go from there.
Okay, Chris, the chief's going to answer that for you.
Okay.
I'll ask public health tomorrow on that, and I'll also ask him the question if you're allowed to deliver as well.
Okay.
If that would be an
I
option for
appreciate
you.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to have to close the doors. And another thing to take in consideration, because I know a few people who've already done it, they've actually moved out of Ridgecrest because they're unemployed and they have no jobs. And it's either be homeless or move to another place and get a job. And so we're losing our citizens of Ridgecrest who have been here for a long time, which is pretty crazy. And it's a scary thing is once this is all done and over with, what are we going to have left to fall back on? You know, there's not a lot here already. So it's definitely a scare in a lot of people's eyes and a concern. So, again, I appreciate what you guys are doing. And if you guys can just touch base with me and let me know, I'd appreciate it.
Will do, Chris. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. You have a good one.
Okay. Go ahead, caller.
Hello, my name is Lauren Zisos. I'm a teenager and young adult who lives in Ridgecrest. I'm first and foremost interested in upholding the Constitution and preserving freedom. My question is twofold. Firstly, when and how does your oath of office to uphold the Constitution while still following safe guidelines based on local and regional data take priority over listening to potentially biased higher-up officials who are not listening to citizens, especially when we are a government of the people? The second aspect of that question is, what can I, as a young citizen, do to help you, whether it be personally, locally, state, or federally, so that we can best protect our city and small businesses?
Would anybody like to take a shot at that?
Jed, did you want to? Is that what you
Yeah, throw that on me. Thanks.
Well, it looked like you were going to the microphone. I was going to go ahead, but go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, when we take the oath for not only the U.S. Constitution, but the state constitution as well. So we have to uphold all of them. And
yes, sir.
So when the governor does put something in, we're a general law city, so we have to follow what he says. And then when public health puts orders in place, such as during this pandemic, then we have to follow those rules as well. So that's why we'd have to follow those. What was the second part of your question? What can you do to help?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a
for
great
all of
question.
You, what can I do to help?
Sure. Get involved. Write letters. Write email the congressmen, senators, assemblymen, the governor himself. I think you need to get the word out there, and it needs to come from everyone, that not just to the group sitting here and all the council members and supervisors. I think that the message needs to be conveyed to not only our city officials, but county and all the way up through the state and even to the federal government. They all have emails, they all have addresses. I think that that's the way the message needs to be sent. And as the gentleman said before, I think his name was Dave, everybody votes, or everybody has the right to vote. So, that's the way you get involved. So I would suggest that you write and continue to write until your message is heard. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Can I add one thing here too? Also, I was going to refer to our general law city rules that because we are different from, for instance, like the city of Los Angeles or some of those other cities who have said, we are not going to do this, or we are considering not following what we were instructed to do. Remember how we were formed, what we do, and who we are. That doesn't mean we don't have a voice, but just imagine the entire city council sitting here, because they would be, but it would be a Brown Act meeting, and so we're trying to do it legally, rightfully, representing, figure there's 5 of us here, as well as Jim and all of our staff, our manager and our police chief and our city clerk, here speaking for you, and this is what our opportunity is, that no one can speak better for the city of Ridgecrest than the city of Ridgecrest. And so no one can speak better for the county than the people in the county. But together we are better. We stand up united and we say, this is what we think. And if you think something, understand that our Assemblyman Vince Fong and our Senator Shannon Grove have also written to the governor saying this is not right. We need to look at it to do it a better way. And that's what we're doing here too, in presenting this to Scott so he can present it further on up the line. But write letters. Don't just sit and complain and say, if only. Do it. Thank you.
Exactly. I think that's well spoken, Mayor Breeden. And Lauren, I would like to see since the kids aren't in school, and I'm sure your folks are keeping you busy, but I'd like to see you, gather up all your friends and get on Facebook and get that youth group around you, harnessed up and write letters and send them to our Senator Shannon Grove and to Assemblyman Vince Fong and to the Kern County supervisors individually. Take the time being out of school and do that. I think it all helps. So good luck to you.
Jim wants to
Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you for what you're doing.
Hang on, Lauren. We have another comment.
Hey, Lauren, it's Jim. I would also add that the advocacy that these fellow people have very well spoken needs to continue. We're going to have other pandemics, particularly over your lifetime, and we need to use this as an experience, because this can never happen this way again, where we have people that are worried about feeding their family. We are the richest nation in the world, and I would encourage you, Lauren, to a year from now, ask what we have done differently in the way of PPE, of working with international organizations, because this is a worldwide problem, but we've made some mistakes, and this is why we're listening to very sad stories about people having to leave our community or wondering what they're going to do. And so please, even after this is over, we just cannot let this pass. We have to ensure that our government does prepare for this type of thing, because it will happen again. So, my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, you guys.
You too. Thank you. Okay, next call. Go ahead, caller.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jimmy. I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse as far as the dog grooming is concerned, but my question is, are we answering to Governor Newsom, or are we answering to the health department? Are they both intertwined?
I think they both. Just go ahead. I'll pass that to you.
Yeah, they're both intertwined, because the state can come out with certain requirements. However, the county can do a better than. In other words, they can be more restrictive. And in this case, our county is not more restrictive than the state. You do have some counties like Riverside County and San Bernardino County that are much more restrictive than what the state requirements are on requiring people to wear masks out in public. So I guess we're answering to both, to provide information to both. One, to our county representatives, who then are going to relay the information to the state.
Okay. I'm reading Gavin Newsom's release on March 22nd, 2020, and he says workers at animal care facilities that provide food, shelter, veterinarian, or routine care or other necessities for the life of animals are considered essential personnel. Yet our dog groomers are closed, and some of us have service animals that need to be groomed or long-haired dogs that need to be taken care of. I understand that they said that the COVID-19 just got transferred to a pet, but that pet had been eating off the people's plates and things like that. With the proper PPE and the proper curbside measures, just like some of the other businesses are doing, why aren't we able to accommodate that now, being that the governor said it's essential?
Yes, sir. I believe that the chief's already going to look into that tomorrow with public health and provide an answer to that business owner.
Okay, so it's not what the governor said, it's what public health is saying.
Correct. The public health interprets what the state guidelines have placed, and then they are the ones that make the determination about the businesses.
And then as far as the community is concerned, when can we look forward to having some of our questions addressed?
I do believe that the chief is going to be reaching out to public health on some of the questions we had on some specific businesses. That will be done hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have answers back tomorrow. If not, they'll be as soon as possible. And I believe the other questions that you're asking are going to be handled by Councilman Heyman when he reports back to the county on the advisory committee on how to reopen.
Okay, and so will we be looking at another town hall next week sometime, or are we going to be waiting, a couple of weeks?
Well, on the agenda for every council meeting is the COVID-19 discussion topic. Now, whether or not Mr. Heyman will have a report back from the county at that point in time, we're not sure. But we will be providing an update, or I will be providing an update to council, and it will be open for public questions and comment. We plan to do this until we're out of this. So you're more than welcome to call back next Wednesday, ask your questions, especially if there's other issues that come up. But whether or not we have another town hall meeting, I'd probably assume we're going to have more town hall meetings in the future, depending upon how this progresses and how we come out of it.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for doing what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, next call. Okay, go ahead, caller.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'm a resident of Ridgecrest, and I have a few suggestions, and I would like to say thank you to the mayor, city council, city manager for allowing us to have this opportunity to give our input. I'd like to ask that we allow restaurants to seat in outdoor areas such as sidewalks, parking lots, so ample spacing between patrons is observed. Allow stores to open and let them regulate the capacity of patrons. That way they don't get overcrowding. The store owners should be able to open up and start operating. And the city council could monitor the health of the community after 3 to 4 weeks to validate statistics to make sure that we're not getting an increase in the COVID virus. But we should be sure that any statistics are actually COVID and not other diseases and not lumped in. So that would take a little bit of monitoring right there. But for the people that are worried about COVID and that want everything closed down, those people are free to stay home and self-regulate. No one wants to take that away from them. And that would keep our community safe and let the people that actually need to conduct business get back and get our community up and running again. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, Christian, and we will pass that information forward. So thank you, sir.
Christian, Jim, could you tell him how many times you report out what's happening so that they know that when you were talking about the city council looking at regulating it?
I think I understood your question. So certainly we actually, against what the government told us we should do, we do update our website immediately with any positive or pendings, and we recently have added the number of tests. In addition, Ron Strand and Jed and I have probably 2 or 3 conversations, albeit sometimes by text. And certainly I'm committed that if we do have any change, that we discuss it over. So I commend the city for being very willing to get the data. Christian, I would also add that I agree with you on part of what you're saying. I think the whole trick to getting through this is we need to get our economy going, but we also have to make sure we have safeguards to protect our vulnerable people. Certainly from my end of it is the nursing home and things as well. But I also agree with your point that there has to be some degree of individual responsibility as well. Part of my position as town is I need to also make sure that I'm looking at, the healthcare needs of our community, but there has to be a compromise between doing the right thing by people who are not vulnerable to it, as well as making sure we have protections for our vulnerable population.
Exactly. And I know some people that are in the profession of waitressing, and they're single mothers with children, and I'd like to see them get back and have the opportunity to take care of their families.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next call.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Good evening. This is Richard Wagner. Christian kind of touched on what I was calling it, so I'm not going to speak much to that. But obviously, until there's a vaccine or an effective treatment, we need to have a common sense approach, wearing our masks and keeping our distances. But our community is different, as many other callers have said, wherein we are mandated, a good majority of us, by federal government. They're forcing us to stay away from each other. Our families are staying at home. We cannot travel farther than 75 miles from our homes without a 14-day mandated quarantine. So these factors should be taken in when we talk to our government, California. That the federal government is mandating a lot of restrictions to keep us safe in our community. Or it's mainly for the base itself, but it is definitely helping our community. So I say, we can let our small businesses open. They are struggling, and because the majority of us are already distancing and following federal guidelines, that we will continue to do that when we go into these small businesses. But another concern of mine is, as more of these folks that aren't as fortunate as us receiving a paycheck, as they get farther and farther behind on their bills, their mortgages, their rents, I'm afraid that petty theft is going to go up, and we're looking at the potential for looting, because they're going to have to provide for their families. There's no way they can continue to go with zero income. And, our government, $1,200 a person, it helped, but that's maybe a couple weeks, So anyway, my opinion is that we are definitely different because the federal government is mandating for a lot of us to keep our distances. And we should just let our bigger government know that the feds are helping our community.
Sorry. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Anyone have any comments to what Richard was bringing up?
I just think that we're all concerned about getting our small businesses open. I think, we all care about those who have taken the risk to work for themselves. And, this meeting tonight is an effort to try and, listen to that segment of our community and do what we can from our perspective to, have some common sense ways of allowing them to reopen where they can survive until we can get back to full normalcy. So we're limited in what we can do, but we do have a little bit of power in the sense is that our voices can be heard and the voices of our community can be heard by, our elected officials above us. But, they still have those tough decisions to make about, making sure they're listening to the experts and how we reopen. So there's going to be a balance in how this happens. And like I said, in the meantime, we feel for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And in regards to the federal government restrictions, the federal government always has its own guidelines and set of constitutional rules that they abide by. But I will say that they've done a fantastic job in regulating their employees and keeping them employed. I think it's been a real benefit to our city economically to, have the federal government and them being able to keep what I would consider a very good number of their employees working, whether it's from home or whatever the case may be. But it's been a really good aspect for the city. So. In comparison to other states,
yeah.
I agree. The chief just brought up that people watching other states and how they're going about opening up, and I think that's a really important thing to be looking at and observing some of the repercussions of good or bad as we move through these processes. And I would like to think that the good side of it's going to roll off to other states too, in helping us to make decisions on opening. So it'll be really interesting to see how things start shaping up here, and I think it's going to be happening fairly quick.
I'd like to make two things. I just got a text from Chip from the fairgrounds saying that the Kern County Fair Board is asking the state for emergency funding, and that and the Fair Board is also asking for that too, and that Channel 17 News is reporting on it. Chip, I don't know what the result of that was, but I'm saying what you said. Also, he asked me to say, as a member of the Desert Valley's Federal Credit Union Board, that they are not taking any more PPPL loans after 5 p.m. tomorrow, and they've done a significant number of them. So I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to say others are or others aren't. I'm just passing that along.
Okay, so I'm going to let everybody know it's 6:39, so we've got about 20 minutes to continue. So we'll move ahead to the next caller. Okay, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Krabby. I've been a resident for many years. And my main concern right now is that all of this is completely unconstitutional. And I want to know where you guys stand as a whole, because the way I see it is you should be representing the Constitution as much as your citizens.
I can answer that. All of the orders that have come down from the governor and the Kern County Public Health Department are based upon long-standing laws that were passed numerous years ago. When it comes to the constitutionality Right now, the law currently exists. It went through the process of being passed by both the Senate and the Assembly, and then signed by a governor at some point in time. So I feel that if what the actions are, if somebody's overstepping and going too far, we do have the court system to where people can, file lawsuits. I know that there are a few out there that have been filed by some of the churches, so some of these things are going to be working their way through. But as for us as the city of Ridgecrest, we still have to follow the laws that have been on the books and respect those that have been given the authority in which to interpret those laws. And so that's where we're pretty much at with it being the constitutionality wise.
Well, I completely understand following the laws on the books, and as far as I knew, there was none. Is there any way that I could get some sort of feedback via email as to what those were that you're following?
Yes, if you look at the governor's original order, there was a government code section that was noted with that basically made it a violation of the law if you didn't follow the governor's directives. And the same
even if the governor is breaking the law himself.
Well, the governor is enforcing the law, and when his directive came out, there was a government code section that was associated with that. We can forward that to you if you want to forward us an email. I can forward you both of those orders, one from the governor and the other from the county health inspector, county health, where they list the authority and the authority for violating it.
I would absolutely be interested in that, but I'm basically at the point, and I know you've heard it all night, but I'd rather a dangerous freedom than a peaceful slavery. So just pass it on up for me to whoever you pass the things up to, that I completely disagree with all of this.
Well, with all due respect, sir, I think that in all times when there's a government overreach, there's always people that will step forward and file lawsuits, and we eventually get that answer of whether or not our people with our executive branch is overstepping their authority. And I would assume if that's the case in this one, we'll eventually have a lawsuit that will be filed and that they will be further defined. But right now, under the circumstances for public safety, public health, we have to continue down this path, at least from the city's perspective.
Yeah, that's a very windy rabbit hole.
And I think some of these issues have been addressed already, across the country. Where I'm sure you can see where the attorneys and citizens have challenged some of the decisions by governors in other states, and so it's already a process and action of are we keeping our constitutional foundation solid? And so I think that is something that's being looked at. And if you watch follow the news, and you'll see where some of the governors have been challenged with it already, and I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg in that arena. So, but thank you for
it's going to cost us all of our tax dollars to actually find it out.
Another big issue in the big coronavirus pandemic, but focus tonight, I think, is geared more on the small businesses and our local community and input in that arena. And so, not that, I wholeheartly appreciate your question, but
well, it all
I think we have enough on our plate right now just to try to stay focused on the immediate help to the citizens in our businesses in our community.
Fair enough. And who do I address my email to?
You can send it to me if you want.
I'm sorry, who is me?
I'm sorry. This is Councilman Heyman. Or would we want to send it to Ricka and keep it all coming through the...
Yeah, if you forward it to COVID-19 at ridgecrest-ca.gov, then it'll get forwarded to us, and the questions about the government code sections that are being cited by the governor and the county health officials, we can forward you those, and then any other information that needs to go to Councilman Heyman, we can forward to him also.
I do appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next call. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Okay, this is Jason. I'm looking more towards the small business people who don't have like an online presence. How can we really assist them or help them and donate money to them or gift certificates if we can't get to them?
I suggest you go through the Chamber of Commerce. They are also, the phone number is 760-375-8331. Tim Smith is their general manager, and he has all that information of businesses, and I know he isn't going to limit it just to the people who are members, but he can get that, anything you want to them. Even if you can't get to their store, he has the ability to do that, and they have been very vocal and active in getting that information and requesting it from the people who need information.
So we can, in general, the public could donate to that Chamber of Commerce to be given money to the small businesses to help them out.
I'm not sure that, check with Tim before you send money. I'm not sure how they allocate it, but also understand that Jim, in front of the hospital, can you talk about those gift cards that are going? Can you say how that's happening too, if people want to buy cards from that way? Yeah, but they're being bought and put in your mailbox, right?
We buy the gift cards, and then we have been distributing them to our employees. Right. Want to thank them for sticking with us during this, as well as supporting the business, and I like to continue to do that. Jason, maybe you and I could chat tomorrow on this as well, because maybe there is a vehicle where we could also work with the chamber, because I think that you are absolutely correct that the ability to have an online presence is very important to surviving this, as well as maybe future things. So I'd be happy to chat with you too tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I recognized your voice, bud.
I figured.
Small town. Thank you, Jason. Next caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello, this
Yes.
is Charlotte Collins. My name is Charlotte Collins, and I'm a Ridgecrest resident. I'm a senior citizen. I live in a condo community of mostly seniors. I have listened to many of the callers today, and I know that it's easy to think of Ridgecrest as an isolated community, stationary and, pretty much the same day to day. However, I'd like to offer a different picture of Ridgecrest, and that is that Ridgecrest is a highly mobile community. As we all know, in normal times, every day, weekdays, large numbers of visitors and contractors for business or jobs on the base come here. You can tell that by the number of lodging opportunities there are. Hotels, motels are all filled up during the week. Restaurants are extremely busy. Okay, so in addition to contractors and visitors coming every day, on the weekends, many of the young adults or young professionals travel out of town. They leave Ridgecrest and go to cities, Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco for weekend entertainments. They attend, entertainments at large venues, concerts like young people do, films, all kinds of places where they are mixing with a lot of people, where a lot of people closer together. In addition, all of my peers who are older adults leave Ridgecrest on a regular basis to go to see doctors in Bakersfield or LA or Lancaster or Palmdale, and also to do shopping. So I want to throw in that this is a community that is very, very mobile. Okay, Jim Suver said earlier that most of the cases in Ridgecrest, a half dozen or so confirmed COVID cases are people who have traveled out of the area. If we, when we open up again or lift restrictions, so many people will be coming and going from Ridgecrest that we will have a much higher exposure to the virus because, you know, people leaving and coming back. I looked at a graph on the county website about the cases over time, over the last month, and I especially noticed that after the governor's shutdown order, our cases in the entire county peaked and then dropped to the level that they are now. So our cases have dropped in the whole county and in Ridgecrest because of the shutdown. Okay, I'd just like to offer one other piece of information about our Ridgecrest community, and that is about our demographics. The demographics I got off of census.gov, but they are current as of 2018. Ridgecrest has about a population of about 30,000 people. The number of people over 65 is about 15%. People living in poverty is also about 15%. Disabled under 65 are 11%. If you add up all of those figures, you get about half of the population of Ridgecrest falls into the highly vulnerable category for COVID. That is people over 65, people living in poverty, people with other health issues. So I want to suggest to all of the callers who think that we should open up because we are not vulnerable, take another look. We are very vulnerable. Our numbers have been low because we have been restricted. If we open up, we need to do it very cautiously and following the best advice of our scientists, health departments, state government, so that we don't have, you know, a terrible, terrible calamity here, because we could. We are not the isolated little desert community that we feel by living here. So I'm going to sign off now, and thank you for listening. I'll take your comments off of
Thank you, Charlotte.
Internet. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments, and I recognize your comments as one of the emails that we had received too. So we do have that on paper form too to forward, you know, with everything that's going to be going. So we appreciate you very much, and we're going to move on to the next caller. We're running down to the tail end of our time here, so next caller, please.
Hi, this is Jean Schneider. Like Dave Matthews, I got stuck listening to the previous one when I came to the website, so I missed the first 20 minutes, and I apologize if this is covered. But I would really appreciate if the library could reopen with appropriate social distancing, of course, and a hand-washing station near the door. No special classes or social events, just the regular services a library provides, like computer and internet access, as well as book and media checkout. That's what I put in my email. The other thing is, thank you for allowing the parks to stay open. I have several meetings that I used to go to that took place in restaurants, and what we do now is buy our food at the restaurant and then go to a park that has enough tables that we can sit 6 feet apart and enjoy our meal, and I appreciate that. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Jane, and they're well received. I agree with you on a couple of those points. Being in the healthcare field, I really stress for everybody to get out, get some sunshine and fresh air, get outside, get some exercise, and some of the closings I've seen across the state and county and federal level, I'm kind of scratching my head going, boy, this doesn't quite fit my thought process. So, but thank you for your input, and we'll go on to the next caller. I think we got time for one or two more, so. Caller, go ahead.
Hello, this is Ronald Porter.
Good evening, Ron.
I was calling to correct something that was stated at this meeting. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on.
Okay.
Ron, I think you need to turn your TV down. We're getting the feedback.
Okay. There was a misstatement made about the Constitution. Under our Constitution, everyone that takes the oath of office is mandated to do their job to uphold the Constitution and make themselves knowledgeable of it. It doesn't go to the court because our elected representatives have a personal duty to find the authorization for it. If they can't find the authorization for the governor, the law that the governor uses under the Constitution, they have an obligation to challenge it. An executive order without authority under the Constitution is nothing. They do not have legislative authority. And we have to stand up as a community and say, because this isn't about you or I, this is about our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We need to protect the republic and the people's liberty and freedom. What we're hearing now is, I'm going to acquiesce to whatever the court says, which isn't their job, it's our job.
Thank you, Ron. What we're talking today is about little businesses, small businesses, local businesses, our community, and we're not trying to disregard the constitutionality of any of the things that have been selected, and we will follow up with that. But however, we're trying to deal with how we answer those questions that we were asked.
Well, a lot of the questions were asked was regarding our Constitution.
I got that, but that isn't what the purpose...
And wait a minute. I understand that we're concerned about today, but we have to be more concerned about the future. And we have an obligation to protect the people's rights over all else. And apparently, you just want to acquiesce to whatever the governor says, even though he doesn't have any lawful authority to write it.
Okay, Ron, we appreciate your input. So thank you, and we are going to, at this time, move on to one more caller.
Jim has one.
Jim? Oh, okay.
We had a text question, and so one of our audience members wanted to know the distinction between people that were asymptomatic yet tested positive as opposed to having severity of symptoms. And I'm comfortable sharing with you that the hospitals had no inpatients at this point with CV-19. We have 3. We always have pending results at any given time for inpatients because we want to be thorough and check people out. But in terms of the 6 positive cases, all of them were quarantined at home and none of them were hospitalized. So I hope that answers the question.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Chris Gray again on a personal note.
Go ahead, Chris.
So I want to make a couple comments. Mr. Strand had used the word common sense, which I couldn't agree with more during this time. We have over 6 million people that die a year in car accidents, and we've never shut down the government. There's been 54,000 deaths across this country over COVID-19. I am at a loss, and I know this starts at small government, works its way up to big government, but there's no way to get your voice out to big government to understand the knee-jerk reaction that we've had based on this. And the amount of people that travel here, and I've heard the comments about Walmart and Albertsons and Home Depot, they're getting the business they couldn't even imagine right now. They're slammed. Our small operations aren't getting the business. Walmart sees over a couple thousand people a day. You look at Casa Corona, or you look at all these other little small restaurants, they would see a few hundred people a day, but we're not letting them open, but Walmart can stay open. So it's I feel definitely it's misconstrued, misappropriated, I guess, towards what we're allowing people to be exposed to. And I feel it's our right. If we want to go and sit down at a restaurant, we should be allowed to go sit down at a restaurant.
Thank you, Chris. And again, these are valid points. Your comments are appreciated, and they will be moved, carried forward. So thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Okay, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so I think this is going to conclude our town hall meeting tonight. I just want to have my own closing comments and thank everyone for participating tonight. Mr. Suver from Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, and I'd like to commend the hospital on doing a fantastic job through all this. They have really, I think, shined and kept us, up informed, and the community, I think, safe. And I want to thank everybody here, our mayor, our chief, our city manager. These folks have been working overtime, our city clerk, the guys behind the window up front, our IT guys, Gary and everyone. They've been doing phenomenal work, and I think tonight's meeting went pretty smooth for being a virtual meeting and being able to take all the calls in. So I want to thank everybody out in the public for playing a part in this meeting tonight. This isn't the end. This is just a start. And next week we'll be having our city council meeting, and this topic is going to be front and center again. And so we're going to keep everybody up to date on what's going on. And as our city manager said, we're going to continue to have meetings and stay on this until it's over. So again, thank you all. And I'd like to pass to the rest of the panel here, anyone that would have any comments they'd like to make before we close it up.
I wanted to also thank everybody for inviting me, especially Mayor Breeden, who encouraged me. And as much as, this is a very serious, probably one of the biggest challenges even in my lifetime, I did want to share at least there are some positives coming up. The supply chain for protective personal equipment for hospitals is starting to open up. I can tell you 2 weeks ago, at one point, we had less than a 5-day supply of certain key items, and now it's starting to open up with some of the interventions, both on the federal and the state level. Our testing is getting better, and as it becomes more available, that's certainly going to help us open up faster, as well as, my number one point is also protecting our vulnerable population. So I do really appreciate, the support of the city, and we did make a difference in slowing down, and I think now that we've seen the statistics, I would agree with you that a organized, slow opening, or a faster opening, but also constantly watching those statistics is going to be very, very important. But thank you again for allowing me to be part of this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Suver for coming out and being available for questions. I know that you've been there for myself and the chief and the mayor, keeping us informed on the medical aspect of how this is progressing in our community. That's allowed us to be able to make common sense decisions at the city level. It's been very helpful. And I know that for the community out there watching, I know you see that we have the mayor and Councilman Heyman here present tonight, but I will say that the rest of the council is engaged and they are concerned. I know that they've all participated in public announcements, Zoom meetings, and so I know that the entire Ridgecrest City Council cares about this community. They are engaged, and I know we will be together again as a full group next Wednesday, so you'll be able to, ask your questions of individual council members, but please be assured that the rest of the council members do care about this and are engaged and are informed of how things are going.
Mayor Breeden?
I have nothing else to say except thank you to all that you called in. I don't know how many were on the line at one time, Rika? On the line, I don't know. How many are participating? I'm sorry. that all of you who were listening and participated, we couldn't have done this without you because it's awful hard to talk to nobody. Okay, we had 26 callers, and at one point in time there was over 100 listening. So I appreciate that. Keep it up. Ask, and I'm going to ask this on a personal level. I've seen some comments that were made that appear like you think we are controlling this, and we are not. Are we not in control? We are in control, but we don't control it. Now that sounds pretty unbalanced, but let me say we have to react to what we have to do. We want to react to all we can do, and we will continue to listen to you, and I am so appreciative of Scott being able and willing to take on this job and represent all 30,000 of us in this valley and in the city of Ridgecrest to the Board of Supervisors, because as you can see, there was probably a total of maybe 500 comments that came through on Facebook and on here. And if you got something to say it to us. Don't do it on Facebook. I'm not saying that that's a bad way to do it, but some of us are never on Facebook, and I was on Facebook more this week than I've been in my entire life. So I'm asking, if you've got something to say it to us so we hear it. And we want to be able to answer, we want to be able to be there, and we can't do it unless we hear it from you directly, please. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Braden. Any other comments, Chief? No? Okay. And on that, we will adjourn this meeting, and we're done.